Governor McKee is in the house tonight.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
No commentary on my own thoughts this evening because we got so much to do and so little time to do it in this half hour. Thanks very much for tuning in. Here are the COVID numbers, or at least the headlines regarding COVID numbers here in the state, and we've got the highest one-day case count since April, but this governor is using other metrics, and I think wisely so. We'll talk about that in a second. Here's a national overview.
For the first time in months, the U.S. is recording over 100,000 new COVID-19 cases a day. Health officials say the Delta variant is to blame.
We're now dealing with a virus that has an extraordinary capability of spreading from person to person.
In the U.S., hospitalizations were up nearly 50% last week, 97% of them involving unvaccinated individuals.
We're looking to some pain and suffering in the future because we're seeing the cases go up.
COVID claimed more than 8,300 lives in the U.S. over the past month. The CDC expects deaths will rise in most of the country in the coming weeks.
Until the rest of the world understands that they have to be vaccinated, we're not going to get on top of this pandemic.
The vaccination rate has recently started to climb again. The number of first doses administered was up 30% last week.
Welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks, Dan.
It never changes. You're on the numbers like, what, by the hour at this point?
Yes, just recently, just before we taped the show.
And I should mention to everybody here that we're taping on Thursday afternoon. That's our standard. So, you know, as we're counting hours until the time you see this on Friday night on Fox and Sunday night on 12, the hours change. But
high concern for the 200,000 people who are eligible to get vaccinated in the state that aren't vaccinated. As your report just said, the people who are vaccinated are certainly in a lot better position than the people unvaccinated. And I think it's really important because there's enough information that goes around, Dan, right? Trailing information, you know, since the COVID started, yes, we had a very high death rate in the state of Rhode Island per capita through March when I took office. But since then, and over the last several weeks, we've been in the top, you know, we've been in the metric where we've had the least amount of funerals that are COVID related in the country. Just last week, tied with Vermont, and in the top 5, you know, over the last 30 days. We have 30 states that have a higher infection rate than Rhode Island does, and we have we're like in the top 5 in terms of testing in the country. So we are very concerned about people who are unvaccinated. So we're putting a great deal of effort into identifying who's unvaccinated, that 200,000 people that we've identified, and we're going to do certainly a concerted effort to make sure that they know that the vaccines are available.
well, look, listen. You, Governor Baker, I think regionally have excelled on the organization of this vaccine, as I told your key guy last week. But the slow creep from the other parts of the country are going to impact the situation. We already see it in kind of trickles. And, you know, it's also the psychology. I wrote in my Valley Breeze column this week that my daughter and I were out, you know, doing our Sunday afternoon shop for a quick dinner, and it's always kind of like leisure time for us. You know, she's the chef, and I push the cart, and it was nice. You're walking around Dave's supermarket in Cumberland, and there's no arrows, but 20% of the people in there were masked versus a month ago when they weren't. And so they're getting the news, they're opting for their own protection, which is fine, and there's no judgment there. But it does begin a slow creep on the psychology and the anxiety that people are going to have here. And you're in the midst of a transition to school, you're in the midst of having to make some not only technical decisions with the Department of Health about what the procedures and protocols ought to be next, but also to manage the psychology of the state and keep this return to a surging business economy in place. It's a hard needle to thread, right?
It is a balancing act. Safety first, economy, open schools as a follow-up. But the people of Rhode Island, we've surpassed 80% of the state of Rhode Island that have at least one shots in it, the 18 and over. We've got some work to do in the 12 to 17, but we can do that as we reopen schools. Hospitalization rates and our death rates are stable, and they're significantly lower than we were when we reopened the economy. So I think that we'll be doing next week, we'll be doing a real strong update of where we are, but I want to reinforce with people that, one, our administration has followed CDC guidance relative to the school openings, right? And also, we came out several weeks ago and said if you're out in public and you're not vaccinated indoors, you should be wearing a mask. That still applies. If you are vaccinated, we're still holding to that it's not, you can do what you want, but the vaccine is keeping you out of the hospital, and that's really important.
Well, on that, there's something that you've said on a couple of occasions, but I don't think everyone's caught. And that is, especially in this culture of the governor runs the show that was established when COVID hit, Governor Raimondo had executive authority, the General Assembly, in my opinion, ran under a desk and hid. Their slow return to an equal branch of government is still ongoing, but one of the things they did in this last budget was to actually rescind your executive authority effective September 1st for unilateral decisions on this stuff. So when you talk about what you can do to articulate a policy, masks in schools, for instance, mandatory vaccines, we'll talk about that in a second, unless they go to business, debate and legislate it themselves, or return executive authority to you, which is another sticky wicket, all you can do is be the lead suggester, correct?
Strong recommendation. If, in fact, we feel...
Is that a better term?
Yeah, I guess so, yes.
Yeah, it probably is. Strong recommendation.
Strong recommendation on the CDC guidance, which we have given the schools.
No power of law, right?
Not related to the existing emergency. You know, we still think that the health department has the ability to respond if we rise to a level that is a health crisis in terms of in this case, the Delta. And we're measuring
Meaning
that.
what? The Department of Health could enforce via power of law restrictions, or does the General Assembly need to go back and give the administration executive authority to then empower the Department of Health to do so?
I think that and I think it's good that we have the ability to work with the Department of Health if we cross that line in a way where we need to step forward with some level of mandate. We probably have that, that ability.
Built into what, the Constitution?
Yes, into other statute.
Other statute.
Yes, on quarantine statutes.
Yeah,
right,
but you've made a
thing.
point to suggest that right now you are in the strong recommendation phase, and it really is kind of interesting what's going on here. From the president on down, the president on a federal level and now with the military is mandating vaccines, but doesn't really want to go any further than that. Governors like you, Charlie Baker, I think are wisely keeping this thing in second gear in terms of mandates. What you do is you say, well, look at the universities. And by the way, there was music in Newport, your big thing, right? And
we like that fact that was
of
music
course,
in Newport.
but we needed a vaccine proof in order to be able to attend.
Yeah.
It seems to me that maybe more so in other parts of the country, but perhaps here, a more serious conversation about vaccine mandates are going to have to happen. You're never going to be able to force a shot in the arm, as you like to say, but it says to me that quality of life restrictions might be more enhanced for those unvaccinated, meaning you don't go to see Hamilton at PPAC.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You don't get to go to the restaurant.
Or the jazz festival.
You don't go to see the Friars game.
Right.
It's hard to project, I know, but what's your gut telling you about what the executive authority might or might not be in that category?
I think that, again, it would have to reach a level of a health crisis. We're coming out of a health crisis. The Delta does pose a health crisis right at this point for people unvaccinated. I think we need to make sure that. So in that respect, you probably have some latitude. I really am impressed what the universities have done, right? They're mandating vaccine for students to get on campus, get their dorm room key, or get in the classroom. We have met this week with the nursing homes. I'm very concerned about the nursing homes, even though we have 95% of our 65 and olders vaccinated in the state of Rhode Island, which is a metric that's as high as anywhere in the country. So, but we are considering, as the hospitals are right now, about mandating for their staff September 1st. that is a high consideration now in our healthcare workers, and we're working our way through that right now.
Well, I like to get the ultimate answer to every question here, but the coronavirus has taught me that you can't get absolute answers to any question at this particular point, right? It's one of those things.
And we on top of it, we've been very fortunate to have a Department of Health led by Dr. Alexander Scott. Not only, and Tom McCarthy is the person that's heading up the COVID response for us, with partnering with Tony Silver in our office, who's got public safety.
Well, speaking of McCarthy, I was asking him, not to jump on you here, I was asking him last week, what's the definitive plan for the schools? I mean, you have been talking about getting the schools engaged. Is there going to be a formal plan come September to put shots in the arms of kids at schools, on school sites?
Yeah, that's our next really focus, right, is that 12 to 17. I talked to my friend of mine who's governor up in Vermont, and he's done very well. He's got 84% of his population 12 and older vaccinated. We're around 72, I think 73, so we got a little ways to go. But the schools is very important, and we brought in a core group of people that are working with our office right now that can do a pressure test, which means that in every school in the state, if a school wanted us to go through a walk through, like, what do you do on this? What do you do on that? What do you do on this? So we're going to make that very accountable. I'm focused on...
Will there be EMTs in high schools, going, all right, let's go, in middle schools?
Right now we are setting up vaccination strategies, and I think virtually offered to every school in the state prior to school opening up.
So we'll stay tuned on that.
Yeah.
A couple other things. Speaking of schools, Providence schools, big deal, teacher union contract, next. So the Providence teachers contract is overwhelmingly signed off on by the rank and file, and those who are by nature and habit inclined to doubt the motives of teacher unions always wonder about such unanimity being a weak deal. And of course you've got the ridiculous drama that ensued last week after the teacher contract, well, actually just prior to it being ratified, with Mayor Elorza doing a you oughta, you gotta come to the people, face the people. We've got that video that you can throw up there. It was insane, just ridiculous. A week later, tell me what you think was the most successful part of being able to put this behind you.
Well, the work has just started, Dan, right? So the efforts in Providence schools, because the mayor agreed to hand over the schools to the state of Rhode Island, which gave us the responsibility to negotiate the very agreements that he had 6 years to negotiate. So the work's just beginning, and I've already started. I've been in seven elementary schools now in Providence with the school committee chair, Nick Heeman. They're going to have a transfer in leadership very shortly. I'll be with the new chair, also with the city council president, Agliosi, and we're going to go in every school, meet with the principals, kind of get the data, actually physically see what's going. Because remember there was a lot of drama about the conditions of the schools. This is all that nuts and bolts work that you want to do. So we're in the
somebody asked a question. Who do you think you are? You're elected a governor. Who are you? The superintendent, the ed commissioner now?
Well,
what are you doing?
I don't know. I inherited COVID, and I'm working on COVID, and we're getting up to national levels there. I would expect that right now you couldn't back away from the responsibility that a governor has, and when there was a intervention the way it was and signed off on by the mayor.
Meaning the state takeover.
The state takeover.
I charge you. One of the things that people need to understand about you is that this is, and full disclosure, I've told you this before. I mean, the governor and I are longtime friends, and I can't play around and golf with him without getting to the third hole, without you opining about some education policy. Yeah. It's like, can I hit a shot, please? But the truth is that this is your bailiwick. Take all the other stuff around. You love this stuff. That's why the charter school thing was such an incredible signature on your contribution to the state. I am sure that state officials, other state officials, I have to talk to the commissioner about this, haven't talked with her, but she's probably not terribly excited that you're going to roll your sleeves up and be in every school. I mean, this is your full court press type of stuff. Whereas Governor Raimondo took this on kind of a delegative basis, you're taking this on a hands-on basis. Why is that different, and why is that approach Well, I know why it's different. Why is that approach effective?
One, like you said, I do have a great deal of experience in this. And back to the contracts, I negotiated 12 municipal contracts. I understood how to get negotiations done, and that's why I think we got it done in a short period of time, respect the parties they're dealing with. I believe
some would
that,
say, and the mayor would say, you threw the baby out with the bathwater. It wasn't tough enough. It wasn't, it wasn't transformative. A word, by the way, that was never defined. Correct? You can throw the word around,
yeah,
but you can't. If you can't define it, it's
people
useless.
create transformations, and that's why the work begins right now. But I can tell you, the principals I've met with over the last 2 days in Providence are thrilled that there's an agreement,
and they get more. They get more juice. They get more power. They get more chance to call people. To call teachers in for meetings.
They get
correct?
real professional days that are not voluntary. They get parent-teacher conferences that are not voluntary. They get 10 or more meetings that with the principal and the staff that are mandatory in a year. They got parent-teacher conferences that are mandatory. They got there's an interaction. I think there's a community tie-in that was really important in the basis. They're going to, all the teachers are required, and I think that they will do willingly now that they have an agreement to go to after-school programs in all our schools. So there's a big push forward, but it sets the table, Dan. Right? There's no way that you create in 1 year a magic wand. Right, and so that's not. It's going to happen by doing your best. It's hard work.
You gave him a bonus, $3,000 in addition to the 212-ish raises. Was that a thank you for the work in COVID?
I think it was. It was also negotiations, and it was a recognition of the COVID issue, which all our teachers in the state. I'd like to see. You know, it would be nice if all our districts. They have a lot of money from the federal money. We took that bonus not out of taxpayer money in Providence. We took that out of federal money that we received. You know, that we can put towards education. So the answer to your question is very simple. Education is the issue of our day. Providence right now, a governor plays the role of a mayor, which I did in Cumberland. So we're going
because of the Crowley Act execution, because the city of Providence went like this, we have no more answers.
And
because
I also say,
Governor Raimondo brought in a commissioner to do all those things, you inherit that.
Right, and I embrace it because I think that you know, I know a great deal of how to move it forward for the families and the students there. But two things that every time I'm speaking publicly I want to clarify. One is that the mayor has told people in the city of Providence that this is a 50-year agreement. A binding agreement. We will be negotiating a new agreement in the fall of 2023 because this one will expire, in fall of 2022,
right.
which is
a
little over a year from now, right. And because this one will expire in the summer of 2023. So that is a very important piece that the people in the public need to know, as well as the people in Providence.
Any thought as to why he's telling these tales?
I understand his frustration. I can't understand his behavior, right? So his frustration is that a mayor, under the governance model in Providence, appointed a school board and basically ran the schools. Not unlike what I'm doing right now, right? We appoint a commissioner. We, you know, I have a lot to do.
But he boxes himself in, Governor, because he in one breath he'll say that you more or less, you know, if not done the people's business. But he also, on another conversation, will take complete ownership of the idea that he brought the state in. Yeah, he wants it both ways. First of all, he didn't bring the state in. The state finally said, all right, that's enough. He had to concede to it. Yes. He didn't recruit the state in. Right. The whole thing is just,
bottom line is the state is, you know, has the responsibility. As the governor of the state, I have a fiduciary responsibility to go and do what I can. But I'm also understanding how to bring people together, Dan, right? So whether it's the union and the teachers, whether it's the principals, whether it's Nick Heeman right now on the existing school board, which doesn't have a great deal of authority, but we've got to respect that position, whether it's working with the city council members or the reps and senators, we're going to go see every school in the Providence, and then we're going to assign people off a education group that I've already put in place in my office, and we're going to assign somebody from my office to every school in the city of Providence.
All right. When we come back, speaking of Providence, it's been a little rough out there lately. Stay with us. Only a few minutes here with the governor, who is, by the way, the governor of the entire state. But right now, you've got a Providence-centric situation. Obviously, COVID and other issues. I mean, listen, you signed some, I thought, intriguing, compelling, some would say game-breaking legislation, a bunch of women's issues this week that we don't have time to get into today. I mean, there are other things you're doing to run this state. But right now, Providence is right here. And now folks are asking, what are you going to do to step in on the violence issue, since the mayor seems to be on his heels? And I think his but with you last week has kind of diminished his standing right now. Be careful what you ask for in terms of the stunts that you pull out there. What is the technical support that you can help with in the city of Providence with some of the violence issues, meaning the state police? I know that they've got a task force now that they've been ongoing with, but is there a step up? Does the mayor have to ask you for help? What?
So in order to do this community policing strategy, partnering in the state police with a local police department anywhere in the state, we did it on Block Island a few years back on some traffic issues. We can do it in Providence. So that's why I sent a letter to the mayor in May, no response. And as things escalated, another letter, no response.
Letter saying what?
We can offer our state police to partner in with your police department in a program with a federally funded and put more boots on the ground.
Additional to what because they do have what's it called? Kind of a neighborhood task force. Yes. That the state police interact with now. But there is seemingly this hue and cry. Of course, the city council in Providence is going to have an emergency meeting in the next week or two to kind of talk about all this stuff on the record. I, this week, talked to the chief of police in Cranston, who literally acted as a surrogate for the chief of police in Providence, saying they're not getting any support. Rank and file don't have a spirit to core support from City Hall. It's a real mess. It's a frittata right now, if not tangibly of, again, perception in the city. So you're telling me, you're asking him, he's not responding. Does he need to respond for you to implement more state police in the city of Providence?
To partner in with the local city Providence Police Department, yes. Because it's got to be a collaborative effort. Can you go in? That's why I mentioned at our press conference the other day. I was very happy that Senate President Iglesias came out and made a public statement. I spoke to him today. They're going to have a meeting. If they make some level of formal request through the city council, we may be able to respond.
Thanks for your time.
Yep.
See you soon.
Yes.
Final word when we come back. Stay with us. All righty, listen, stay tuned. The Providence stuff and the COVID things are fluid. We'll continue on WPRO weekdays 3 to 6. You have a great week.